Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Barua. Let's get you up to speed with the top stories we're tracking this Friday morning. As Maharashtra cases continue to surge, the Chief Minister holds a review meeting. BMC announces new rules, a one-day lockdown in Amravati. A Delhi court will hear the plea of arrested climate change activist Disha Ravi today. She sought to restrain the police from leaking investigation material pertaining to her case. Fuel prices on fire after a rise for the 10th straight day yesterday. Petrol was over 100 rupees per litre in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. A bitter exchange at South 24 Pargana rally in Bengal. Amit Shah repeats the Bua Bhatija jibe. Mamata Banerjee returns the fire, speaks about her nephew Abhishek Banerjee for the very first time. Vote of confidence on the floor of the House in Puducherry scheduled for Monday with both sides tied. Is President's rule a possibility? Well, our top story this morning is from Maharashtra. 5,427 new cases of the coronavirus in the state in a span of just 24 hours. 38 COVID-19 deaths have also been reported in this period. However, the recovery rate in the state is still high, with 95.5% of the people recovering. The civic authorities in Mumbai, meanwhile, have clamped down with fresh safety measures as COVID numbers in the state and the city remained in an upward trajectory for a week now. The Mumbai BMC's strict new rules say if there are more than 5 COVID positive patients in one building, the building will be sealed. Stamps on hands of people who will be home quarantined. 300 marshals at railway stations to ensure everyone's wearing a mask. Earlier, there were only 100 such marshals present. Marriage halls, clubs, restaurants can be raided, and passengers who are returning from Brazil will also be put into institutional quarantine as per the central government's directives. The state, in fact, the BMC has also announced that testing across Mumbai will be ramped up. Remember, 736 cases in Mumbai in the last 24 hours alone. Mumbai has seen its highest spike in 70 days. But the rest of the state is a big concern as well, which is almost 4,800 new cases in 24 hours. That's highest in almost 6 weeks. The weekly average on Thursday hit a 36-day high, which doesn't look so bad as compared to what it was earlier or the other massive peaks. But if we take a look at the latest peak, which is approximately 3,406 cases, this is actually up over 25% in the span of just 1 week.
Over 4,700 cases in Maharashtra and 721 in Mumbai in last 24 hours. Biggest spike in the last 70 days, sounding an alarm.
Mumbai local trains started for all common public from February 1, and since the last 1 week, we are seeing that the number of cases of coronavirus in Mumbai are going up, to which the government says that the trains are also one of the biggest reasons.
आप बोल रहे हैं कि कोरोना ट्रेन से बढ़ रहा है और एसटी में क्या कर रहे हैं? एसटी में कितना भीड़ रही है वो नहीं कोई देखता है? हाँ, उससे नहीं कोरोना बढ़ता है।
अगर आप दादर स्टेशन पे उतरेंगे 5 मिनट में डिस्टेंस से आपको बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग मिल जाएंगे कि जिनके ऊपर मास्क ही नहीं है।
सबके लिए पूरा ओपन कर दो, सबके लिए, तो क्या है कि पब्लिक भी डिवाइड हो जाएगा।
But it is not just Mumbai. 21 of 36 districts are seeing a spike in the number of cases. Topping this are Amravati, which has declared a day's lockdown on a Sunday, and others are Yavatmal and Akola in Vidarbha. CM gave powers to the district collectors of Amravati, Yavatmal and Akola to take a call based on ground situation.
अमरावती जिल्ह्यामध्ये रुग्णांची संख्या दिवस वाढते असल्याने प्रशासन शनिवारी रात्री 8 वाजतापासून रविवारी पूर्ण दिवस सोमवारी 7 वाजेपर्यंत लॉकडाउन जिल्ह्यामध्ये राहणार आहे.
But experts believe this is not a wave and cases can go down in few days.
क्या ये सेकेंड वेव है? अगले 10 दिन हमें बताएगा कि क्या ये सेकेंड वेव है या नहीं. अगर तादाद भरपूर बढ़े तो ये सेकेंड वेव हो सकता है.
If the cases are not controlled now, things can once again go out of hand. So it is important for people to take care of their own safety, in turn securing others and the state. In Mumbai with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Meanwhile, on Thursday, petrol prices crossed the 100 rupees per litre mark in certain areas in Madhya Pradesh and in certain areas in Rajasthan. This after fuel prices were hiked for a 10th straight day.
In a remote corner of eastern Madhya Pradesh, ordinary folk are coming to terms with what petrol at 100 rupees actually means for them.
पेट्रोल तो इतना महंगा नहीं होना चाहिए, ये काफ़ी ज़्यादा महंगा होते जा रहा है हर बार। बाकी आमदनी तो वही की वही है, अभी ना सैलरी बढ़ रही है।
बहुत दिक्कतें हैं क्योंकि अब घर में तो हम लोग को मंथली जितना पैसा आता है एडजस्ट ही नहीं हो पाता, क्योंकि अब इतना आना जाना पड़ता है कॉलेज एंड ऑल, तो एकदम से प्राइसेस बढ़ गए हैं। तो
स्टूडेंट हैं आप?
जी सर।
तो बहुत मुश्किल हो
बहुत
रही है
मुश्किल है सर।
क्या कर सकते हैं आप बताइए? बस यही बोल सकते हैं सरकार से कि नहीं, पेट्रोल के दाम कम होना चाहिए। अब ये सरकार सुने जब ना।
Petrol for auto or installments. Rakesh is worried in capital Bhopal.
गाड़ी किस्तें बड़ी मुश्किल से भरा रही है, रोज के 200-250 दिन भर में हो रहा है, और कोई मेहनत करे तो क्या बनेंगे, उसमें कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है। पेट्रोल है तो महंगा ही महंगा होता जा रहा है, गाड़ी का मेंटेनेंस नहीं निकल रहा।
Dr. Vijay Menon is worried for LPG at home and petrol prices for daily commute to her college.
पेट्रोल का प्राइस मेरे ख्याल से एमपी में सबसे ज़्यादा है, क्योंकि सबसे ज़्यादा वैट पेट्रोल और डीजल पे एमपी में लग रहा है। अब तो जाना मुश्किल हो गया है बढ़ती हुई प्राइसेस में, और सबसे बड़ी बात इस कोविड के कारण तो हमारी पूरी तनख्वाहें आधी कर दी, इंक्रीमेंट है नहीं।
राहत देने के लिए सरकार के पास कोई ऐसी योजना तो होगी, कोई ऐसा प्लान तो होगा जिससे पेट्रोल डीजल के भाव कम हो सकते हैं।
देखिए, आगे आने वाले दिनों में मैं नरेंद्र मोदी जी को बहुत बधाई दूंगा कि उन्होंने इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय जो भाव हैं उस पर हमारा कंट्रोल हो, उसकी व्यवस्था की है। जिस प्रकार से सोलर का उपयोग आगे आने वाले समय में परिवहन पर होगा।
Madhya Pradesh levies 33% VAT plus 4.5 cess a litre on petrol. On diesel, it charges 23% VAT plus 3 per litre cess. Only Rajasthan has higher charges. The government says they can't do much. Congress is saying they will raise the issue in assembly.
ये तो पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम भारत सरकार ने जो वहाँ पर डेली बेसिस पे जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय लेवल पे होते हैं उसके अनुसार तय होते हैं। अगर वहाँ कम हो जाते हैं तो इधर भी कम हो जाते हैं, बढ़ जाते हैं वहाँ बढ़ जाते हैं।
The relentless hike in prices has been criticized by everyone, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that if the previous governments had focused on reducing India's energy import dependence, middle class would not have been bothered. In Bhopal, Anurag Bari for NDTV.
Well, on to the other big story we're tracking today. India and China continue the process of de-escalation in eastern Ladakh, a move that has taken the two nuclear-armed neighbours from the verge of an out-and-out conflict. What we can now share with you is the latest high-resolution images of the north bank of the Pangong Lake, where a lot of this has actually transpired over the course of the last several months. Vishnu Shom with a full story.
First, this is the area that we are talking about, the north bank of the Pangong Lake. The line you see is called the Ridge Line, Finger 4. As part of the agreement, Indian forces have shifted west of Finger 4 to the Indian post, the location of which you see. Now the area from Finger 4 to Finger 8, which lies further to the east, is now no man's land, no patrolling by either side. It is the territory here that the Chinese occupied, and from where they are now moving back. So what are the changes that we are now seeing? First, let's look at the situation at Finger 5 on the 30th of January. Those are Chinese structures on the left-hand side of your screen on territory that is Indian territory. But on the 16th of February, 2 days back, the area is empty of these structures. They're gone. So let's put the two pictures together. As you can see, when we compare the images, the old image to the left and the Chinese having moved away on the right. Let's move to the Finger 6 area of Pangong, and these are several Chinese huts on the 30th of January, less than a month back. 2 days ago, these are gone from the same location. So again, let's compare the images and you can see the differences. Here's another close-up of Finger 6, a slightly different location. Again, Chinese structures visible on the 30th of January, but gone 2 days ago on the 16th of February. Again, here is the comparison of the same location, And significantly, as you see, the Chinese have even leveled out that particular area. They are supposed to be doing that as part of the agreement. Finally, this is the area further to the west between Finger 7 and Finger 8. As you can see, several Chinese tents and other structures. Small ones you can see in pink on the right-hand side of the screen. 2 days back, same area, these were in fact removed. So let's bring you a comparison of the two areas. On the left-hand side, you can see those structures. On the right-hand side, they have in fact been vacated.
Well, on to the big story we're tracking from West Bengal. The governor of West Bengal now wants an NIA probe into the Murshidabad blast that left a minister in the Mamata Banerjee government seriously injured along with several others. Several party supporters had come to see him off and they were walking him down a railway platform when this blast took place.
I strongly condemn the incident. It is most unfortunate. It is atrocious. A very expert investigation is required, as law provides for it. I am sure the possibility of investigation by National Investigating Agency that has the requisite expertise to go into the matter will be involved.
খুন করে সরিয়ে দেওয়াটা ছিল এদের টার্গেট। যারাই করে থাকুক আমি মনে করি এর পুরো তদন্ত হওয়া উচিত।
An explosive accusation by Mamata Banerjee that BJP had conspired to try and kill her minister Zakir Hussain. This minister and 25 others were grievously injured last night in a bomb blast at a railway station in Murshidabad district, 250 kilometers north of Kolkata. Trinamool claimed Hussain rejected feelers by BJP and perhaps paid the price.
Mamata Banerjee's charge came at this massive Trinamool rally in Poilan. She spoke just a few hours after Amit Shah had spoken in Namkhana, a few kilometers away from here. He was silent on the incident, only speaking in general about apprehensions on polling day.
तृणमूल कांग्रेस के नेता कहते हैं हम लोगों को वोट नहीं डालने देंगे। मैं आपको गारंटी देता हूं चुनाव के दिन रोड पर टीएमसी का एक भी गुंडा आपको दिखाई नहीं पड़ेगा।
BJP has frequently charged the Mamata Banerjee government of failing to maintain law and order in the state, especially in the elections. For the Murshidabad blast, Trinamool blames the railways for lapses. BJP says Bengal is not run by the railway ministry but by the Trinamool, and Mamata cannot deflect blame. The governor has expressed concern at the incident. Political temperatures in poll-bound Bengal are already soaring. Now the BJP and the Trinamool Congress have locked horns on the issue of law and order, and that is going to only fan the flames. With Saurav Gupta, Monadeepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Well, on to the big story we're tracking from Puducherry. Well, a floor test will be taking place on Monday. The newly sworn-in Lieutenant Governor Tamilisai Soundararajan has ordered the floor test. The floor test, remember, will ascertain if the Congress-led government is in a majority or not. This, remember, after 4 Congress legislators resigned, 2 of them have in fact joined the BJP. Now, sources have indicated to NDTV that the Lieutenant Governor personally has handed over this communication to the Chief Minister. The decision, of course, has been taken after the opposition wrote a letter to the Lieutenant Governor demanding the trust vote on Monday. The Congress government and the opposition are both currently, as per the tally, at 14 MLAs each. Elections, remember, were scheduled to take place in Puducherry in May. Now, with both sides at 14, the big question is, could President's rule be a possibility? Moving on, E. Sridharan, the legendary metro man of India, is all set to join the BJP months ahead of the polls in Kerala.
Ahead of the assembly elections in Kerala, E. Sridharan, also known as India's Metro Man, is set to join the BJP and says he is open to contest elections if party wants him to do so.
കേരളത്തിലെ പല പദ്ധതികളിൽ ഞാൻ ഏർപ്പെട്ടു, പലതും ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിച്ചു. ആദ്യം UDF ഗവൺമെൻറ്റായിരുന്നു, പിന്നെ LDF ഗവൺമെൻറ്റാണ്. പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിച്ച മാതിരി സംഗതികൾ കൊണ്ടു നടക്കാൻ രണ്ട് പാർട്ടിക്കും സാധിച്ചു.
At 88, he's still working. His current assignment as a consultant, rebuilding a flyover in Kochi under the left government. For Sridharan to contest, BJP would have to make a departure from its earlier position of a cut-off age of 75 for contesting polls.
Happy to welcome Sri E. Sridharan ji. We will move forward with him together and we will reclaim the Kerala.
After following is joining with the BJP will be able to make any mark in the state of Kerala? Not at all. A person like Mr. Sridharan ought not have joined BJP.
In Kerala, BJP won its first assembly seat last election. Out of 140 assembly seats, it has one MLA. Its strategy now to get more and more popular faces on board. However, the ruling left as well as the principal opposition Congress-led UDF both deny any threats. With camera person SP Babu, Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
Welcome back. The big story that we've been tracking very closely from Uttar Pradesh is the shocking case of the 3 minor girls who were found unconscious in their field. Remember, 2 of these girls were declared dead and 1 of them is still in a critical state. Now, the bodies of the 2 girls had been sent for a post-mortem, and according to senior police officials, what we are learning is that as per the medical report, it appears to be a suspected case of poisoning. The 3rd girl who has survived is being treated at a hospital in Kanpur now, and her condition is critical but stable. The other 2 girls, of course, who are dead, as per their post-mortem report, the police suggest that there is no evidence of any injuries on their body. The cause of death could not be ascertained, but the viscera has been preserved for a further chemical analysis.
तीसरी बच्ची का उपचार जनपद कानपुर नगर में चल रहा है. वहाँ के चिकित्सकों द्वारा जारी मेडिकल बुलेटिन के अनुसार उसे सस्पेक्टेड केस ऑफ पॉइजनिंग बताया गया है और उसकी कंडीशन क्रिटिकल बट स्टेबल आंकी गई है. 2 अन्य बच्चियां जिनकी दुर्भाग्य से मृत्यु हो गई है का पोस्टमार्टम एग्जामिनेशन डॉक्टरों के एक पैनल द्वारा संपादित किया गया है और उनके शरीर पर किसी भी प्रकार की मृत्यु पूर्व या बाह्य चोट का होना नहीं पाया गया है. और मृत्यु के कारण के विषय में अंकित किया गया है कि कॉज ऑफ डेथ कुड नॉट बी असर्टेन्ड, विसरा प्रिजर्व फॉर केमिकल एनालिसिस.
हरेरी चारा में गए थे और हमने 5 जब मुधेर हो गए थे, हम कहा हमारी लड़की बे नहीं आई और 5 बजे रोज आ जाती रहे. तुम कहा भाई हमारी लड़की नहीं आई तो हमने हार त्यान तो मैंने गोबर फेंके लागेन, चारा पानी करे डारे लागेन. चारा पानी दोपहर में लगा जाती रहा रोज सान के लिए. फिर हम डारे लागेन. फिर जब 3 दिन ध्यान गए थे, हम कहा हमारी बिटिया बे नहीं आई तो साहब हम दौड़े लागेन. फिर तान है कहाँ चली को मर्दा इसका कहे से दादा कहाँ चली गई तो कहा लगा अरे हम पंचे फिर वैसे ही घूमे जो दीदी है ना, फिर वैसे ही घूमे तो फिर वैसे घूमे तो बोहरा कहला रे यहाँ आओ देखो 2-3 परी हमें. तब साहब हम होने पहुँचा. हमारी लड़की तो रुपट्टा खाली डाले रहा.
उन्नाव के बाबूराहा गाँव में सरसों के खेतों के बीच में ये वो जगह है जहाँ पे 3 बच्चियाँ यहाँ पे बेसुध मिली थीं. 2 लड़कियाँ अस्पताल जाने पे पता चला कि वो मर चुकी हैं और एक बच्ची जो बहुत गंभीर हालत में बीमार है कानपुर में भर्ती है. ये लड़कियाँ चारे के लिए अपने घर से निकली थी तकरीबन 3 बजे के करीब. तकरीबन 6 बजे के करीब जब वो अपने घर नहीं पहुंची तो उनके परिवार के लोग उनको ढूंढने के लिए आए और ढूंढते ढूंढते जब वो यहाँ पहुंचे हैं तो इस जगह पे 3 लड़कियां उनको मिली हैं. ये जगह जो अभी थोड़ी खाली हो गई है ये लोगों के कदमों से रौंदने की वजह से खाली हो गई है. जब लड़कियां यहाँ पे मिली हैं तब सरसों के खेत उसी तरह पूरे खड़े हुए थे, पेड़. यहाँ पे बहुत सारे लोग आए हैं, पुलिस के लोग आए हैं, गाँव के लोग आए हैं, जिससे ये जगह इस तरह की हो गई है. तो बहरहाल उनमें से एक लड़की जो है जिंदगी के लिए कानपुर में संघर्ष कर रही है और 2 लड़कियां मर चुकी हैं जिनका पोस्टमार्टम हो चुका है. उन्नाव में राजेश गुप्ता के साथ कमाल खान, NDTV इंडिया.
Well, we'll keep a close watch on all of those developments. We're going to slip into a very short break. A lot more coming up on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to the other big development that we're tracking. The former Karnataka Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy has now said that despite knowing that he was the ex-Chief Minister of Karnataka, those who came to collect donations for the Ram Mandir attacked him.
Joined by Mr. Kumaraswamy, H.D. Kumaraswamy, former Chief Minister of Karnataka and senior leader of the Janata Dal Secular. Kumaraswamy ji, thank you for joining us. Now,
tell me, sir.
Now, you said that some people came to your house in Bangalore and threatened you. Can you what happened exactly?
So what happened actually 15-20 days back, early morning 7 or 7:30, 3 persons they came to my house.
Okay.
In that actually one lady was also there. Then they started regarding this Ram temple issue, give the funds. Then I told them, what is the authenticity you got to collect the money? Who are you? On whom belief behalf you have come here to request for the donation? They told this Ram temple is India's pride. For that you give the donation. Then I told, no, that I will agree, but what is the authenticity you had to collect the money? Who have authorized you to collect the money? This question I put.
Okay.
For that lady started to, using filthy language, actually she started to attack me. Several people were there at that time. In my
attack
house,
you meaning? What do you mean attack? Like verbally or?
Actually, why you are asking all those things?
Oh, okay.
As a Hindu, as an Indian, you donate. Why you ask all those questions?
She was,
this is the arrogancy.
Was she aware of who you were? She knew you were, did she know who you were?
Yeah, even knowing all those things, even knowing that I am former Chief Minister, the behaviors, how they behaved in front of me, not only in front of me, several people were there because in my house, morning 6 o'clock visitors will start. In front of them, actually, they attacked me with bad words. Then I told, you are thinking that the Rama is the pride of this country. Yes, I will agree. But here you see, one girl actually, BE, engineering student, she stands before me on that day. Her last date for paying the exam fees actually for that year. 60,000 she required.
Yes.
For that she came and approaching me. Here you see lakhs of Sitas, lakhs of Ramas here in front of my house. I told them, referring those people. This is the issue.
So
on that day, I had an experience.
So you couldn't identify. Did they tell you who they were?
Whether they are authenticated, actually donate seeking people, I don't know. Who are they? Because they are not recognized persons. This is the problem.
Okay.
Then what your Vaman Rao is telling, Vamanachar, yes, I know. Crores of people, they are donating to construct the Rama temple, I know that. Voluntarily they are giving.
Yes.
But some people, they are coming to the residence. Several people, they have expressed their problems.
Right.
One person, he told me recently.
Yes.
Some people, they came to his house in JP Nagar. They are demanding 1,00,000 rupees for donation. Then
okay, so you're saying there is some.
Please give some time.
Right, there are some bad elements. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
And when asked about the funds for the Ram Mandir collected in the 90s, VHP leader in charge of the Ram Mandir donation drive says this is a bad question.
अभी तक कितना कलेक्शन हो गया है और आपका टारगेट क्या है, तो कितना टारगेट मीट हो चुका है?
हमारा कोई लक्ष्य नहीं है,
पैसा इकट्ठा करना किसी के जीवन का लक्ष्य नहीं होना चाहिए। ये माया आने जाने वाली चीज है। दूसरी बात, ये पैसा है किसका? ये अहंकार किसी को नहीं रखना चाहिए कि मेरा पैसा है। ये तो उस भगवान का है।
तो सर अभी कितना हो गया है कलेक्ट? अगर आपका टारगेट नहीं है तो अभी तक?
हाँ ठीक है। इसका एक उत्तर तो सीधा दो अक्षरों में यह है, अभी कुछ भी निश्चित नहीं कहा जा सकता। रोज रोज आंकड़े इकट्ठे नहीं हो सकते। आजकल चुनाव के आंकड़े दिए जाते हैं तो वो भी जो देते हैं ना, ये ऐसा चल रहा है वैसा चल रहा है, वो भी कई घंटे पहले का होता है। तो भी हाँ, बहुत उत्साह है समाज में, बहुत उमंग है।
तो सर अगर
और ऐसा कई लोगों ने कहा है कि शायद 1500 करोड़ रुपया आ गया है।
1500 करोड़ कब तक?
यही तो मालूम नहीं।
अच्छा।
यही तो समस्या आ रही है। ये तो बैंक में नहीं बता सकते। और मैं तो ऐसे लोगों में से हूँ, नीरस लोगों में से, मैं रोज रोज फोन करता ही नहीं किसी को।
तो सर जो 1990s में कलेक्ट हुआ है वो भी इसी काम के लिए यूज होगा? वो भी उन्हीं अकाउंट्स में ऐड हो रहा है?
बड़ा खराब सवाल है। जिस किसी ने तुमको ये सवाल पूछने की प्रेरणा दी है, तुम्हारा सवाल नहीं है, तुमको किसी ने कहा है कि सवाल पूछना। उस व्यक्ति को कहना कि चंपत जी कहते हैं कि बहुत ही कम बुद्धि के आदमी हो तुम। तुम्हारा सवाल नहीं है बेटा ये।
सर लेकिन सवाल तो यही है।
हाँ, जिस किसी ने तुमको ये सवाल पूछने की प्रेरणा दी है उसको कहो चंपत जी कह रहे हैं कि तुमको अकल ही नहीं है।
सर लेकिन सवाल का
बेटे तुम्हारा सवाल नहीं है ये।
सर एनडीटीवी से सवाल है।
एनडीटीवी के जिस संपादक ने तुमको ये सवाल लिख कर दिया है वो आदमी समझदार बुद्धि का नहीं है। इट इज नॉट योर क्वेश्चन बेटे।
So sir, you are not going to answer this question?
नहीं, आंसर इज वेरी गुड, बट मैं उस आदमी को पहले आंसर कर रहा हूं जिसने, क्योंकि इट इज नॉट योर क्वेश्चन।
Okay sir, but whoever's question it is, I need to
तो मेरा उत्तर यह है एनडीटीवी के उस व्यक्ति को कि ही इज ए वेरी बोगस मैन। वो समाज के अंदर नकारात्मक बुद्धि का आदमी है जिसने सवाल किया। मैं आई अगेन से इट इज नॉट योर क्वेश्चन। संपूर्ण भारत के 37,000 कार्यकर्ता वो स्टेट बैंक, पंजाब बैंक, बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा के सिस्टम से ऑनलाइन जुड़े हैं। तीनों बैंकों पर 37,000 कार्यकर्ताओं की डिटेल्ड इंफॉर्मेशन है। अगर कोई बैंक ये कहेगा मेरे पास नहीं है तो ही दैट बैंक इज फिसड्डी बैंक।
सर जस्ट टू क्लैरिफाई, आपके सारे जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं उनकी डिटेल्ड इंफॉर्मेशन हर बैंक के पास है। तो
yes.
बैंक के पास जाते हैं और डिपॉजिट करते हैं, उन्हें पता है कि किसने कलेक्ट किया, कहां से कलेक्ट किया, कितना कलेक्ट किया।
और अगर कोई कार्यकर्ता जिसका रिकॉर्ड बैंक के पास है, वो कार्यकर्ता स्वयं न जाकर अपने बड़े समझदार इंजीनियर बेटे को कह देता जाओ ये पैसा बैंक में जमा कराओ, तो बैंक का सिस्टम इतना बढ़िया है वो उस पैसे को डिपॉजिट नहीं करेगा। जिसका नाम रिकॉर्ड में है वही जब बैंक में जाएगा तो बैंक विल एक्सेप्ट द मनी।
एंड सर लास्ट क्वेश्चन, ये कुछ रिपोर्टिंग हुई है, कुछ एलिगेशंस हैं कि ये जो स्टिकर्स आप लगा रहे हैं हर घर के ऊपर, ये जो घर डोनेशन करता है फिर आप स्टिकर लगाते हैं उनके दरवाजे पर या दीवार पर, ये एक इंटिमिडेशन टैक्टिक है, थोड़ा कोवर्जन इन्वॉल्व हो गया है इसमें। तो आपके कमेंट्स इस पर क्या?
मुझे तो मालूम नहीं, मैंने तो किसी को कहा नहीं कि स्टिकर लगाना, हमने किसी को सूचना नहीं दी और इसलिए मैं अरे इतने 140 करोड़ जनता में मूर्ख भी तो होंगे कुछ, और कुछ खुराफाती दिमाग भी तो होगा। मैं चला गया, मेरे बाद आपने आके लगा दिया। बोलो ये होगा कि नहीं होगा?
जी सर, तो ये ऑर्डर ऊपर से नहीं आया है और आप
ऑर्डर, अरे मेरे ऊपर कौन है? मैंने किसी को सूचना नहीं दी। आई एम द सेक्रेटरी जनरल, तो हमने किसी को सूचना नहीं दी। लेकिन चुनाव में पोस्टर लगते हैं कि नहीं? वॉल राइटिंग होता है कि नहीं? झंडे लगते हैं कि नहीं? जब किसी को लगता है भाई मेरा मकान खराब हो जाएगा तो मना कर देता है।
Welcome back. Hard-hitting Karnataka all-rounder Krishnappa Gautam was sold to Chennai Super Kings for 9.25 crores. He became the most expensive uncapped Indian player in the IPL history. Gautam, a right-handed lower-order batsman and an off-spinner, had come to the auction at a base price of 20 lakh rupees.
Here is the Indian story of the day. Hard-hitting Karnataka all-rounder Krishnappa Gautam was sold to Chennai Super Kings for 9.25 crore. He became the most expensive uncapped Indian player in IPL history. Gautam, a right-handed lower-order batsman and an off-spinner, had come into the auction at a base price of 20 lakh rupees. Well, I'm joined by the man of the moment right now. Gautam, thank you very much for joining us on NDTV. Your first reaction, you must have been watching the IPL auctions.
Yeah, we just traveled from Chennai to Ahmedabad now, just before the auction started. So I just reached the hotel room, so I was watching in my hotel room.
So you are in quarantine right now, and people say, you know, life in quarantine is tough these days, but it must be a moment of celebration for you.
No, I finished my quarantine time because we finished it in Chennai only. So the bio bubble continues. So we did have about 2.5 hours flight. But yeah, like, you know, bio bubble life is a little tough, but at the same time, these kind of surprises will help you, enjoy the moment. That's it.
Gautam, you are not new to the IPL. You've played for Rajasthan Royals. You've played for Punjab. But how is it being, picked by Chennai Super Kings? I think you are the first player from Karnataka who's been picked up by CSK.
I didn't know about that, but yeah, like, I would say, like, it's a dream come true. I always wanted to play under Mahi Bhai. So yeah, I would say it's a dream come true for me.
Right. Also, when we look at the CSK squad, we have Ravindra Jadeja there, and now we have you there. How will the dynamic play out for the season now with you and perhaps Jadeja bowling in tandem?
I think we need to go out there, and then we need to know how and what are the roles given to me in the team. So yeah, like, it will be great that, I'll be playing alongside Ravindra Jadeja. He's one of the best all-rounders. We all have seen what he can get onto the table. So yeah, like, would love to learn things also from him, the way he handles pressure, the way he goes about it. So yeah, I would love to be like, enjoy that togetherness.
Gautam, you had entered with a base price of 20 lakh rupees. Why was your base price so low, given that you're not an unknown commodity in the IPL? People know what you're capable of, even as a lower order batsman.
I think you need to start, anytime you start, you need to start from the scratch. So I believe in that. So that's the reason why I kept my base price as a base price of 20 lakhs.
And when you were sold finally for 9.5 crore rupees, there was a bidding war for you. What was really going through your mind while the bidding war was happening and, after?
It was like, I was very nervous, first and foremost. And second thing, I would say, like, I'm very pleased to know that, the CSK franchise has so much faith in me. And I totally, like, I'm very overwhelmed about the thing, what they've shown, the belief what they've shown in me. So I would love to stand up and do the best possible for the team.
Of course, you will be there. You will also be joined by another senior of the Indian team, Cheteshwar Pujara. And when we talk about CSK, it is one of the most successful franchises in the IPL, Gautam. But last year, it didn't do so well. So they are looking for a turnaround this time around. As a newcomer, how much pressure does it put you under, and especially this is going to be in India, on India tracks, and you are a master of those tracks?
First thing I would say, yesterday was history, tomorrow is a mystery. We don't know what is coming tomorrow, and we talking about yesterday, it's really not going to help. It's only thing what it can help us in, we have to look the positives in it. We have to look forward and move forward. And yes, looking forward, I would say whatever the thing, we all know what kind of a franchise CSK is. We all know how and things, what are the things they do right. So yes, be associated to be a part of those that kind of a franchise. I would say it's a great thing. And looking forward, I would say we would like to whatever possible, whatever things possible from my end, I would try to win few games for the team. Is what will be my main goal.
Gautam, IPL is a platform from which people graduate to Team India. Even last year, we've seen quite a few stars then making a mark in international cricket. This year, is that your target as well from here to get into the Indian cricket team? Because this is going to be a long year for India in not only the limited overs version, but also in Test cricket.
Yeah, I think I'm a person who believes in the present. So I just go about one day at a time. I don't have too far targets, and as every cricketer, primary goal is to play for the country, and that will be my primary goal, and that is the ultimatum. Yeah, in that thing, you need to do your process right, and we need to focus on the process, and we need to keep doing what we are doing, and we need to get better every day. So yeah, I will look up to getting better every day and try and earn my place in the team.
Right. Thank you very much, Gautam, for joining me on the broadcast, and all the very best to you.
Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Barua. The big story for us this morning is from Maharashtra, where, remember, 5,427 new cases have been reported in the state in the last 24 hours. 38 deaths have been reported in this period. Another worrying story is emerging from Mumbai once again, where 736 cases have been reported in the last 24 hours. There are now new rules that have been put in place as far as Mumbai is concerned. The BMC says if there are more than 5 COVID patients in a building, the building will now be sealed. People will be stamped on their hand if they're home quarantined. 300 marshals will be deployed at railway stations to ensure people are wearing masks. Marriage halls, clubs, restaurants, if they're overcrowded, can be raided. And passengers from Brazil will also be subject to institutional quarantine as per the directives of the government. Now, Mumbai has seen its highest spike in 70 days. But the rest of the state is also a huge cause of concern. There's a one-day lockdown on Sunday that's been announced in Amravati, for instance. Now, this, of course, is extremely concerning because this is the highest surge that the state is seeing in almost 6 weeks. The weekly average has hit a 36-day high, which doesn't look too bad if you compare it to the earlier peaks. But if we look at the latest peak of around 3,406, this is actually up by almost 25% in the span of a week. What do these numbers mean? What is really happening in the state of Maharashtra and specifically in the city of Mumbai? What needs to be done in order to contain the COVID-19 cases? We have a panel of experts joining us this morning. Dr. Shashank Joshi, he's a member of the COVID task force in Maharashtra, someone who really has an eye on what's happening. We also have Dr. Rajesh Parikh, medical Research Director at the Jaslok Hospital, joining us on the broadcast. Thanks so much. Dr. Joshi, I want to begin by asking you, the recent spike that we're seeing, it's not just, 1 day or 2 days now. There has been this upward tick for the last 1 week. How worried are you about the situation in Maharashtra and specifically Mumbai at the moment?
I think, Rishika, thank you for having me here. We need to delineate Mumbai and Maharashtra separately.
Yes.
The peaks in Vidarbha, Amravati, Akola region, Yavatmal are probably linked to a mutant strain which is more transmissible. And there sometimes, in Amravati, the test positivity rate almost is 50%, which was an outlier. So probably there is a genomic mutation which is coming in place. As far as Mumbai is concerned, Mumbai always had a thick tail. And you're absolutely right when you said that just a couple of weeks back, the average daily number used to be 350 to 400. Of course, actual daily numbers are not a real yardstick, and it is almost doubled up now. You said 25%, but actual numbers have doubled up, which is like a 50% rise.
Right.
And that is a clear cause of concern because people thought COVID is over and they had total, utter disrespect for COVID appropriate behavior. Whether it was masking, distancing, overcrowding, poorly ventilated spaces, all the norms were being flouted. Even people who are positive for COVID, they were not self-isolating and home-isolating themselves. And that was becoming a huge challenge. And I think that is why BMC has now ensured that what they were enforcing earlier has got reinforced in a more strict and a vigilant way, because we can't afford any complacency. It's a clear yellow signal. I would not say that it's a red signal for Mumbai at least, because the number of deaths are still low and our testing in the community had also dropped down,
right,
both for Maharashtra and for Mumbai. So I think what is required is ramping up the testing, tracing all over again, ensuring that COVID appropriate behavior is complied to, and thirdly, ensuring that masking or double masking can be very strictly enforced. Unless and until we do that, we'll be back to square one and have a proper second surge. So it's a yellow signal tending towards red. We need the yellow signal to go towards green.
Right. So you're saying it's a yellow signal. It's not red yet, but definitely needs to move towards green. Dr. Joshi, you raise a very important point when you say that what's happening in Amravati, say for instance, could perhaps be linked to, a genetic mutation in the COVID, perhaps a new strain. How close are we to identifying what's really happening? Because if you look at genome sequencing in India, only about 0.05% of the cases are being sent for genome sequencing. Do we need to then ramp up efforts? Is that already happening? What's your assessment?
So I think ICMR has already attempted that. Genome sequencing is not easy, but they have tried to upscale it and regionalize it. And in Amravati, they have picked up 4 cases of E484K strain, which is on the spike protein, which is an immune escape strain. So it basically escapes the immunity and is highly transmissible. The COVID caused by this strain is the same as like the regular COVID. However, it is more transmissible, just like the UK strain or the Brazilian strain or the African strain. And the other mutation they have picked up is an N447 mutation, which is there in Yavatmal. So actually in that region, we are seeing 2 mutant strains. See, mutant strains have been there all throughout. Even in India, for the last, almost a year, we have seen mutant strains. But this Amravati strain is a cause of concern because this mutation, which is the ICMR has picked up and the Genomic Institute at NIV has picked up, is probably looking to be more transmissible like the British strain. And that is why probably the government is fully mindful of it. And the Akola region is probably heading for a single day lockdown on Sunday. Today is also Shiv Jayanti, so it's a holiday in most parts of Maharashtra. And stricter enforcement measures and micro containment would be the strategy. I don't think we can afford a lockdown now. But what will happen is there will be a lot of mini and micro containment in geo mapping. So we'll have to geo map and seal or micro seal those areas and geographies. Because the cases which were coming in Amravati were coming in clusters and they were coming in families. So that probably led to a suspicion that probably this could be a genomic variant. And that has been confirmed in a small number of cases. I completely agree with you that we need to upscale genomic testing, but it's a very labor intensive test and genomic surveillance has been there across. And I think India has also ramped it up, but they need to ramp it up further now.
Well, it is indeed a worrying story as far as Maharashtra is concerned, and I think what you're talking about, this E484K strain, which can actually evade antibodies, so you can therefore have the possibility of a reinfection. Can you break this down, Dr. Parikh, for our viewers? If indeed there are these genetic mutations, which is what Dr. Joshi is saying, what does this mean? Can there now be perhaps a surge in reinfection as well? Because we know that this E484K strain can in fact, reinfect somebody who's already had COVID also.
Oh, absolutely, Rishika. Pleasure to be with you. Reinfections have been detected across the world, though not on a massive scale, for quite some time. In fact, in Mumbai itself, about 6 months ago, genomic studies were done on 4 cases, which clearly established that this was not a recurrence of an existing infection, but a reinfection of a slightly different strain. Having said that, genomic mutations occur in nature all the time. They're rampant. This virus must have mutated over 1,000 times. So that's in the course of the evolution of the virus. However, some of these strains, as the one that evades antibodies, become particularly worrisome. Now, while I am concerned, I also need to commend both the BMC and the Maharashtra government for having taken the early steps that are necessary to contain this. We have been talking about the second wave, for well over a year. We published our first book on the coronavirus in February, and in that, as well as in the new book on vaccination, we have talked of the second wave, which has occurred currently in other countries and in Kerala in our country, but historically 100 years ago has also occurred, and even before that. And the second waves have typically been more devastating than the first wave.
Yes.
If you have half a minute, I could show you a second wave from our book. I'm not sure if this is visible, but assuming it is, then you will see that in the pandemic, which occurred exactly 100 years ago, the second wave, which followed a few months later, due to a mutant strain, was far more intense than the first one and left much more havoc in its wake than did the first one. And then there was a third wave, not as bad as the first or the second wave. So this is the cause of pandemics.
Right. What you're saying is that this is definitely a cause of concern, and I think Dr. Joshi has already reiterated that we need to prevent ourselves, from getting into the red category. We need to move more towards the green category. My question then, Dr. Joshi, is in your assessment, as a member of the COVID task force, do you believe that the current, restrictions that have been put in place, is that enough? Sealing of buildings where there are more than, 5 cases, hand stamping, the fact that there are going to be more marshals to ensure that there is mask compliance at railway stations. Do you believe all of this is enough, or, does perhaps more need to be done, given the fact that these deadly mutations are being detected in Maharashtra?
I think it's never enough, Harshika, but one thing is very sure, that something is better than nothing. I think there was a total, lack of even the public health order because everybody was in a vaccine mode. And in this vaccine mode, somewhere down the line, cases started slipping up all over again. So I think it's a very good reinforcement, and I think stricter the better. But being too strict also sometimes is counterproductive. So doing it just right is that little golden mean. And I think the BMC is making an effort towards that direction. And so is Maharashtra. As I said, none of us can afford a lockdown. But a mini containment, micro pocket detection, sealing of appropriate places where there is a cluster being picked up. These are standard public health measures which need to be ensured that they are complied with. And what also needs to be done on a war footing, which we have all red flagged it to the government and the BMC, is to improve the contact tracing of the clusters. Right. So that ratio has to go from 1:20 to 1:50, so that we can then really contain this whole thing. What was happening? Why is stamping required? Because people who are positive for COVID, they have to be at home for 10 days. They were also not staying at home for 10 days. So that was a little too much. And therefore, I think it's important also that citizens take some responsibility and behave responsibly and appropriately.
You said that we are in vaccine mode, and therefore also people have become a little lax. Dr. Parikh, the question then is, given the fact that these mutations have been detected in India, given the information that Dr. Joshi has just given us here on NDTV, the question then is that are the existing vaccines in India effective? We don't even know the efficacy of efficacy data of Bharat Biotech just yet. What we do know is that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine also has a diminished effect when it comes to these mutations. So, is this vaccine laxity really par for the course?
Just a few months ago, Israel had to halt its vaccination drive because while it was in the midst of the vaccination drive, there was a second wave. And to some extent, not entirely, the wave was contributed by people getting together for vaccination. About your question about whether the current vaccines are going to be effective against the virus, please keep in mind, Rishika, we all should never forget that the virus is always 2 steps ahead of us.
Yes.
What is reassuring, however, are 2 things. One, the tremendous speed at which the vaccines have been created means that it's going to take even less time to tweak these vaccines to cope with the mutations.
Yes.
And secondly, some of the vaccines, particularly the ones that are the mRNA vaccines, have been constructed on a platform which is very amenable to rapid change. And so I'm quite confident that the vaccines will be tweaked and should be able to cope with it. Of course, the virus has its own plans, and depending on the mutation.
And I think and I think it's important, you know, to note what you've both just said is that A, the virus is always 2 steps ahead, and B, you know, one can't take India's declining numbers so far for granted. Look at what's happening in Maharashtra currently. This is a worrying story, and this could very well become an India story as well. So it's extremely important to maintain, you know, COVID appropriate behavior and follow these new rules and regulations that have been put in place. I'm completely out of time, but thank you both very much for joining me on this extremely important conversation this morning. We'll continue to track the details of this story from Maharashtra very, very closely. Let's shift our focus, however, to some of the other big stories that we're tracking today. India and China continue the process of de-escalation in eastern Ladakh, a move that has taken the 2 nuclear-armed neighbours from the verge of an out-and-out conflict. Now, what we can share with you is the latest high-resolution satellite images of the north bank of the Pangong Lake, where a lot of this has actually happened. Vishnu Shom with the very latest.
First, this is the area that we are talking about, the north bank of the Pangong Lake. The line you see is called the Ridge Line, Finger 4. As part of the agreement, Indian forces have shifted west of Finger 4 to the Indian post, the location of which you see. Now, the area from Finger 4 to Finger 8, which lies further to the east, is now no man's land, no patrolling by either side. It is the territory here that the Chinese occupied and from where they are now moving back. So, what are the changes that we are now seeing? First, let's look at the situation at Finger 5 on the 30th of January. Those are Chinese structures on the left-hand side of your screen on territory that is Indian territory. But on the 16th of February, 2 days back, the area is empty of these structures. They're gone. So let's put the 2 pictures together. As you can see, when we compare the images, the old image to the left and the Chinese having moved away on the right. Let's move to the Finger 6 area of Pangong, and these are several Chinese huts on the 30th of January, less than a month back. 2 days ago, these are gone from the same location. So again, let's compare the images and you can see the differences. Here's another close-up of Finger 6, a slightly different location. Again, Chinese structures visible on the 30th of January, but gone 2 days ago on the 16th of February. Again, here is the comparison of the same location, and significantly, as you see, the Chinese have even leveled out that particular area. They are supposed to be doing that as part of the agreement. Finally, this is the area further to the west between Finger 7 and Finger 8. As you can see, several Chinese tents and other structures, small ones you can see in pink on the right-hand side of the screen. 2 days back, same area, these were in fact removed. So let's bring you a comparison of the 2 areas. On the left-hand side, you can see those structures. On the right-hand side, they have in fact been vacated.
Well, on to the other big story that we're tracking. A fierce gun battle erupted in Shopian district after security forces launched an operation to flush out hiding militants in the Badigam area in the district. 3 terrorists have been killed. According to the Kashmir Police tweet, Army, Police and CRPF have carried out a joint operation early this morning following a specific input about the presence of these terrorists. Nazir Masoodi joining us for the very latest. Nazir, what more can you tell us about this encounter?
Well, this is not just one encounter. I'm getting the update. There have been 2 back-to-back encounters, one in Shopian, one in Badgam district. These are 2 adjacent, districts, one in central Kashmir, the second in South Kashmir. 3 militants have been killed in Shopian encounter in Badigam, area. So 3 militants killed without any, casualty on the security forces. And 2 AK rifles and other arms and ammunition have been recovered. But there was another operation launched by the security force in Badgam district in Birba area, where one special police official has been killed, 1 policeman has been injured in that encounter. It is unclear whether the militants who are hiding there have managed to escape, but the operation is on. Our sources tell us in both the operations, these were launched by the security forces joint operation based on the specific information to flush out hiding militants. One encounter in Shopian, they have killed 3 militants. Their identity is being ascertained, But in another operation to flash out militants, which has not gone as per the plan of the security forces, police have suffered casualties. One special police official has been killed, another has been injured, and looks like maybe the hiding militant may have managed to escape. That's what a senior police official told me a while back. But at the same time, this operation continues there. So 2 back-to-back encounters operation by the security forces in Kashmir today.
Welcome back. The big political focus. Amit Shah and Mamata Banerjee faced off in a bitter exchange in rallies that they held in the South 24 Parganas district yesterday. While Mamata Banerjee returned the fire on Amit Shah's allegations, perhaps for the first time, she spoke about why her nephew Abhishek Banerjee is in politics, even as the Home Minister repeated his Bua Bhatija jibe.
मित्रों, टीएमसी का एक ही नारा है, भतीजा बढ़ाओ। भतीजे के कल्याण के अलावे टीएमसी के मन में और कोई कल्याण नहीं। बंगाल के विकास के लिए मोदी जी ने ढेर सारे पैसे भेजे, मगर ये सारे पैसे भेंट चढ़ गए दीदी की सिंडिकेट के। कहां गया? कहां गया? ये भाईपो और उसके गुंडे ये 3,59,000 करोड़ चाऊ कर गए हैं, चाऊ कर गए। मगर आप चिंता मत करिए, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार बनेगी, ये सारे भ्रष्टाचार की हम जांच कराएंगे और जिन्होंने बंगाल के गरीबों का पैसा खाया है उनको कानून के हवाले करने का काम ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार बनेगी।
और खाली दीदी और भातीजा, अरे दीदी के पोड़े लोड़ भी आगे भातीजा के लोड़ এতই যদি তোদের দিদি আর ভাতিজা বলতে হয় তাহলে আমি চ্যালেঞ্জ করছি অমিত শাহকে, ফার্স্ট ইউ কন্টেস্ট উইথ অভিষেক ব্যানার্জি এন্ড টেল দ্য নেম আর কি কি করেছে তোমাকে বলতে হবে। আর তা নালে মনে রাখবে তোমার ছেলেও কিন্তু এই করাপশনের চার্জ থেকে রেহাই পাবে না। তোমার ছেলেকে তুমি লুকিয়ে রাখবে আর অন্যদের গালাগালি দেবে, এটা চলতে পারে না। আমি অমিত শাহ ভদ্রতা করি, আমার ভদ্রতা তোমার দুর্বলতা নয়। আমরা সমস্ত পরিবার তৃণমূল কংগ্রেস পরিবার। তুমি একজনকে চোর বললে আমাদের গায়ে লাগে। তুমি রোজ ভাইপো ভাতিজা বলছো, তো তোমার ছেলেও তো আমার ভাতিজা। সে কি করে ক্রিকেটের নেতা হলো? সে কি করে কোনো টাকা পয়সা ছিল না 100 কোটি টাকার মালিক হয়ে গেল? কি ভাইয়া बात कहे।
Well, on to the other big political development that we're tracking from Puducherry. Remember, a floor test will now be held on Monday. The newly sworn-in Lieutenant Governor Sondara Rajan Tamilisai is the one who's ordered this floor test. She says this is important to ascertain if the government, which is led by the Congress currently, is still in a majority. Sources say that the Lieutenant Governor personally handed over communication to the Chief Minister, and a decision, of course, was taken to conduct the floor test after the opposition wrote a letter to the Lieutenant Governor demanding for this trust vote. The Congress government as well as the opposition are both at 14 MLAs each. This, remember, after 4 Congress MLAs quit, 2 of them have joined the BJP. Elections are just months away, but the big question is, with both the Congress-led government as well as the opposition at 14 each, is President's rule an option at the moment? Sam joins us with the very latest. Sam, what's your assessment?
Rishika, a quick update. A short while ago, Chief Minister Narayanaswamy has told reporters in Puducherry that his government will win the trust vote and scuttle what he calls BJP's attempts to topple them. As you said, yes, both sides have 14 MLAs, but interestingly, a short while ago, the Chief Minister has said that the 3 nominated MLAs in Puducherry from the BJP do not have voting rights. That's what he has said. He says they are consulting legal experts on this, and whether this would go for any legal twist, that's something we'll have to wait and watch. But there are 3 possibilities, Rishika. One, the Congress government in Puducherry could fall for short of numbers. Secondly, they may win the trust vote, as the Chief Minister had claimed that the resignation of 2 MLAs have not been accepted. If they could have bring about a change of heart that could happen. The government could win the trust vote. Or in other words, they may have to ensure that 2 MLAs, even from the opposite side, do not attend the session or abstain from voting. In that sense, technically, they'll be able to get the support of more than 50% of the numbers present at that point on the House. Thirdly, the government, if the government collapses, then the Lieutenant Governor may ask the opposition leader, former Chief Minister Rangaswamy, to explore possibilities to form the government. This could pave way for formation of a new government, but elections are anyway just a few months away. Whether the Lieutenant Governor would use this option, that's something we'll have to wait and watch. Otherwise, it would automatically go under President's rule. So these are possible options or outcomes we can look for, but ultimately we'll have to see how the ruling Congress would manage its numbers, whether it will be able to really pull through or will it collapse. That's something we'll have to wait and watch.
Well, absolutely. It's a wait and watch as of now, but Monday is that crucial floor test on the floor of the Puducherry Assembly. Appreciate you, Sam, for joining us with the latest update.